White Sox podcast, coming to you live from the CHGO offices here in the West Loop of Chicago. I'm your host, Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. You can follow the show on Twitter at CHGO_White Sox. Alongside me, our special guest of the day here to talk about the 2023 draft class for the Chicago White Sox and more, Mike Rankin. Managing editor and host of the Future Sox podcast and of FutureSox.com. You can follow Mike on Twitter at Rankin906. And that's Herb Lawrence.
Hello.
You can follow him on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you killed it. I remember every time you're like, I don't want to see the DraftKings presenting sponsor. Killed it that way.
Well, we still mentioned it anyways.
Murdered it. Nope. You did it, but I wanted to give you kudos for killing it.
Thank you. It is my job. Sign up with code CHGO, though, for DraftKings Sportsbook, since you mentioned it. I appreciate the kudos. I do. Do you guys remember Kudos bars?
Yeah, the little candy bars, right?
It was like granola, chocolate on the bottom.
Is this happening?
A couple mini M&Ms. I know you're a Kudos bar guy.
I'm a big chocolate guy. Look, what is it? Crackle?
Crackle, delicious.
Crackle, and what's it similar to? Crunch bars?
Yeah,
Nelson
Crunch
Crunch Bar. They're the same bar. That's the
Yo.
other day. Who did that? Barstool Carl put that out there.
Oh,
and I was
yeah.
like, the same candy.
That's why it was in my head, I guess.
The
I must have
exact
saw
same
that.
candy.
I mean, like, that's a Kudos bar right
Oh.
there. I mean, that's a...
Yes.
My
Those
jam.
are delicious.
That's middle school right there
Those
for
are,
me.
those are real good.
Yeah,
I
when
mean, you had
Mom-
those in your lunch, and
I'm about to say, when Mom packed that up for lunch, you're like, baby, I'm winning today.
Some M&Ms.
Catch me starring in the film The Untouchables when I have a Kudos bar at my lunchable in my lunch. Anyways, Mike, where can people find Future Sox? At Future Sox?
Well, I'll tell you this. On Twitter, we're at Future Sox, but partners with SoxMachine.com. So shout out to Josh Nelson and Jim Margulis and all those guys at Sox Machine. We have a pretty good relationship, I would say, going on year 2, and we were lucky enough to take over the draft show live, reacting to the White Sox pick at 15, and we were breaking down picks leading up to the White Sox selection, had some guests on, so definitely encourage everybody listening to subscribe to the Future Sox podcast.
Yeah, you, James Fox, and Elijah Evans did a great job on that live draft show and recapping all the Sox picks. And I know you guys just did a recent episode, too, going through all 20 rounds and all 20 picks as well.
And you guys should go and check that out, too.
Thank you.
Go and
Yes.
check out Future Sox. Go and check out Sox Machine. All the stuff that Mike does, all the stuff he touches turns to gold.
What, Mike, name all the things you touch
Can
on
we
a
move
daily
on to,
basis.
Can we move on to White
No,
Sox draft picks?
You are being examined. You have to answer.
Future Sox is great.
And what's up, Hawks with Sox? Make sure if you guys are hanging out with us, hit that thumbs up button. I know Mike's a golfer. Mike, feel free to come out to our CHGO golf outing, too.
Give me more information. I would love to.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
August 25th, it's a 9 a.m. shotgun start at Cog Hill. You ever hear that?
Yeah, I heard really good golfers used to play there all the time.
Right. You never hear of Tiger Woods?
Oh, yeah, that guy.
He golfed there.
cool.
And you know who's as good as good at golf as Tiger Woods?
Mike Rankin?
Me. Are you?
Well, I guess we'll see at the golf outing.
Hey, there you go. So go sign up at allchgo.com. You also get the Pins and Aces CHGO polo shirt when you sign up as well and buy a ticket. So make sure you're signing up at allchgo.
Can I just say one more thing, too? Just
details there, yeah.
Yeah, self-promotion a little bit. August 26th, we're having Future Sox night at the ballpark, Guaranteed Rate Field. It's on our Twitter, at Future Sox. Purchase a ticket. You can hang out with all the fans that are, like-minded individuals. Hang out in the patio section 90 minutes before pregame. First pitch, I should say, 90 minutes before first pitch. And then we're hanging out in right field. And you get a Dylan Cease bobblehead. It's bobblehead day there.
Ooh.
That's Saturday. So Saturday, August 26th, 6:10 p.m., first pitch.
And they're playing the A's. Is that one of the weird Dylan bobbleheads where it's like he's a superhero? Because they did that with, like, Paul Konerko.
I thought it was like...
Oh, it's a normal one. It's
The normal with the Sunday jerseys, maybe?
Yeah, the 83s.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's got a fuzzy mustache. So, like, I actually don't hate it because he's got a fuzzy mustache.
Yeah, there it is, right there.
Yeah, you
that's-
remember
yeah.
they did the whole thing in spring training where they were like, does that look like Dylan Cease? And, of course, Jimmy Lambert gave a weird answer because Lambert's a weird guy.
Did you get the
What did he
Luis
say?
Robert one?
I forgot.
The Luis Robert bobblehead's awesome.
Oh, the one with the shades?
The latest one? Oh, man,
we
so
didn't.
cool.
So Vinny...
Southside jersey?
People Vinny's usually our...
$300
Oh,
already. Yeah. Online.
Vinny's our connection. Usually the Sox are nice enough to give him some, and then maybe he's nice enough to bring him in here. Jared was nice enough to bring that Aloy one in, so maybe Jared went, and Jared's going to be nice enough to bring it in. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I gave away our Aloy / Luis Robert one at their opening day one. Our opening day broadcast we did this year. That was my favorite member of the first half.
The broadcast from the whistle.
Oh my God, excitement! They actually won.
They didn't. Well, yeah, they actually won. I thought you said like we're thinking before they even started.
Yeah.
It was just great to be there.
Are they like 15 under at this point?
16.
Yeah, I love this team. Matthew Lucas, thanks so much for the shout out. Future Sox is a great pod. Thank you.
Yeah,
Sleepy Harold, our guy. Thank you.
Oh, also.
And also too, Ethan's excited to hear your thoughts on Gonzalez and Taylor and all the picks here. So we're excited to have your expertise on the show, Mike. And also too, make sure the outing duo. You could do the golf outing on the 25th, get all your rest that night, and then have the day to recover, and then do it again that night.
Hang out with us
with the Future Sox guys. But the draft class. Jacob Gonzalez is the first pick. 15th overall. I don't know if that's the most important pick of this draft class, but he still is a first rounder who, before this draft was started, before the games were played, he was talked about as a potential top 5 pick. So what did the White Sox get with Jacob Gonzalez at 15, regardless of position, regardless of the White Sox future? Jacob Gonzalez, the player.
Well, the first thing I think that stood out to us was the acumen, somebody who really does take in information well. We listened to Mike Shirley describe the player, and something that Mike Shirley, the director of amateur scouting of the Chicago White Sox, said was that when they had a chance to meet with him for 30 minutes at the Combine, they approached him with video and mechanical changes that could impact expected slugging and some of the things that would progress him as a professional. And apparently the reports were very well. He took all the information in, and how he responds to, I guess I should say, at Ole Miss, they were playing in a national championship game 2 years ago, and to step in a high intensity, bright spotlight, and he stood up just like Tim Elko, and as well as their 4th round pick, the catcher Calvin Harris. They were all a part of that national championship team. So I think that was very important to Mike Shirley. The fact that he stood in the face of pressure and he succeeded. I think the White Sox were surprised to see him fall to 15, and Mike Shirley said that was the guy that they wanted and were excited to see fall, and they couldn't pass him up. Just to break down the player at the plate a little bit, the first thing that jumped out to me when I was breaking down some of his tape was the stride. He has somewhat of a slight lean towards first base, and it kind of reminds me of players who play in Japan typically, and I think that limits... You can get exposed, I should say, at the professional level. So if you're pulling your body weight towards first base, change up down and away from a right-handed pitcher, can offer tendencies where you're pulling off, stuff like that. So I think that'll get exposed at the professional level, so he'll need to make mechanical tweaks there. I'm not too concerned about that because listening to Mike Shirley describe the approach at the plate, bat-to-ball skill, very impressive walk rate, contact rate, doesn't strike out a lot, didn't strike out a lot in the SEC, so that was very encouraging. This is a steady, solid college player who could advance in the system quickly, sort of lines up with where Colson Montgomery's development is at this point. The question is whether or not Jacob Gonzalez will stay at shortstop. I'd imagine that you start him there, allow him to work in Kannapolis, Winston-Salem in the single-A level, and then go from there. So there's a lot to the Jacob Gonzalez thing.
Well, and I heard too, just that he might be advanced enough to start at Double-A already. Like or be able to do well at Double-A. You said he's similar to Colson. We know Colson right now can probably do well at Advanced A, and pushing him to Double-A would be probably a little rush. But Jacob is a little bit more advanced, maybe.
Well, that speaks to where he is as a professional, or as a baseball player, understanding what pitchers can do to him at the plate, and then. The knock is his 40-grade run tool. And to me, that doesn't suggest that he's unathletic, right? It's just something that I think can be overcome with the rest of his skill set. He's not fast, but that doesn't mean he's a bad player because he's got high 20, I would say his ceiling is 25 home runs and 25 home run potential as a shortstop, or you move to third base, it's a quality player. So if they fix some of the slight word lean towards first base in his stride, there's also some stuff with his mechanics in his upper half and his hips that need to be aligned. If you take away that misstep, I would consider that mechanical tweak a misstep. Then all of a sudden you can see the upside in his power because he can go to all fields. He's got a lot of pull side power, and the White Sox need ball in air on their pull side at the big league level at this point. So just a couple of thoughts there.
He was, as the White Sox were surprised that he got to the spot that he got to. Why the drop? what are the things that are the huge knocks? You've been talking about him right there, kind of like what is he stepping in the bucket towards first base and such like that. But if a guy is doing all the stuff that he did at Mississippi and started as a freshman, all SEC, played in the toughest division in college baseball, why is he going where the White Sox picked him up? And another question you might answer a little later, third Ole Miss player they've picked in the last 2 years. I thought they got a little happy with Louisville players a couple years ago. Is that a problem necessarily? So the first thing, why did he drop? Secondly, why all these Ole Miss players?
Yeah, it's a good question. It was really fun to watch the first 14 or so picks go because we were surprised to see Max Clark go to Detroit. That was an early pick. So I think it was a matter of consequence. You see, organizations commit to a certain dollar amount related to the allotted slot value they get in their selection. So, in the first overall pick, you're spending a lot of money, and it kind of goes down. So maybe that had something to do with it, and also the fact that within Jacob Gonzalez's game, as a left-handed hitter, maybe they weren't confident enough in changing what the White Sox believe they can fix. So I can't speak for other organizations. I think the upside was found elsewhere. I think the best way I could put it, ahead of Jacob Gonzalez. The second point is I think it has to do with the fact that those players were a part of the Ole Miss national championship run, and I think that mattered a lot to the White Sox, seeing guys like Tim Elko and Calvin Harris and now Jacob Gonzalez have success in the SEC at the highest level. And you got to give credit to the Ole Miss program. So that's all I have for that.
Well, and Elko's just tearing it up, too.
Yeah.
I mean,
he's a guy who just you knew you were going to get that out of him, just a slugger.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it projectable? Like, are the stats that he put up with Ole Miss, do they think there's a floor enough that's high enough that they can have him be a major league in 2025? Are the stats he put up Ole Miss, I know they're a little outsized, but are they projectable to the MLB where he can be maybe an all-star, maybe a MLB starter, whatever they project him as?
Well, and two, Shirley, said, some of these elite college pitchers, they have a timeline of 1 to 2 years. Elite middle infielders, what's their timeline?
So what's really exciting about the modern era of prospects is that they're exposed to so much technology and in terms of rehab and sports science. And when you break down film and you have access to exclusive, spots in the cage or workout programs, your development is it is a lot different than what we're used to, as I should say. Because when I'm thinking about Jacob Gonzalez in this instance, you ask the question, can he be a part of the White Sox in 2025? I say yes. And I say that because he has confidence in his plate approach, and he has confidence in adjusting. He, according to the White Sox, can overcome failure. And I think that's something that's undersold in a lot of prospects or players in general, just understanding the psyche and understanding how they can get to that next level and adjusting in real time. And I think the White Sox have made a concerted effort to target players like that. And it goes back to Colson Montgomery specifically. That was something that Mike Shirley, when he drafted Montgomery, raved about, is the fact that he was always cool, calm, and collected under pressure, and that he could adjust in real time. So, the development is really exciting at this point, because in the modern era, guys are stronger, faster, better than ever. And look, it's not out of the question to see even some of these starting pitchers pitch a year and a half following their draft.
Well, and before we move on to the pitchers and, Mike Shirley and, if he's making the picks, if Rick and Kenny have any influence, before we move off Gonzalez, you've mentioned the IQ, you've mentioned the power, and then you've also mentioned the lack of speed for a middle infielder. I love comps. Who doesn't love a nice comp? Maybe not swing-wise he's this player, and that's what makes this player a little bit higher graded, but I thought he was maybe at least on the 2080 scale, like a budget Corey Seager. The hit tool for Seager coming out, 60 for Gonzalez, 55. The power tool for Seager, 60 for Gonzalez, 55. The run tool for Seager, 45. For Gonzalez, 40. The glove for Seager and arm at 60. And then the field and arm for Gonzalez, 55 and 50. Again, maybe the swing isn't there because, again, you talk about the pullingness of Gonzalez, where Seager is very much up the middle, a very clean swing. But both guys going in the 17th and 15th range. Is there any comp there that you could see for Seager and Gonzalez, especially being lefty?
That's pretty
infielders?
fair. And, speaking of lefty bats, Mike Shirley made it a point to add a lot of left-handed hitters in this draft, so that's really interesting. Not really good, personally, with comms. I never like to look at that. But Jacob Gonzalez, I think, when you look at the selection and the timeline in which the White Sox want to be competitive again, you think of the value that you get out of middle infield talent, whether it's up the middle, and then you further that at catcher, and then also in the outfield at center field. Like, those are the types of key positions that you tend to take risk on, but this is a steady selection, and I think maybe that's why, like back to your earlier question, Herb, maybe others passed on him because they saw upside, like I said. Mm-hmm. So this is just, we'll see how it develops, but I'm very confident that he'll be able to handle professional pitching better than maybe others were. And like guys like Arjun Namala was available, and he's a prep guy that I was hopeful to see the White Sox make that selection. But again, this is a guy at 21 years old, maybe a year and a half worth of development, and we can start dreaming a little bit. And I don't want to take this conversation too far into the future, but you think of the timelines of some of these prospects, these sort of line up now when you're adding advanced players in this draft this year, and then also you combine it with the players that are already developing in the minor leagues. If the White Sox do want to go internal, 2025 isn't a bad target date for some of these guys.
And the last thing I got about this player, but it also could project to all the rest of the players. I was talking about pedigree the other day, and Gonzalez's dad played in the minor leagues, longtime high school baseball coach. Do you think that went into drafting the player also? Like you were talking about Colston Montgomery and how he can, overcome failure, and having a person in your house, and Jess Gonzalez, his dad, who's been there, done that, and understands what baseball takes and the mentality you need to have. Do you think that goes into what an analyst like Mike Shirley might be saying? Okay, he has a good pedigree. He comes from this stock, so he understands what baseball's all about. He's just not some uber talented athlete that we need to coach up after he fails.
That's a great point, because Mike Shirley actually did reference that exact thing. Talked about working and growing up with a baseball coach. So absolutely, I think that has a lot to do with it. And when you take a step back and break down several draft classes, now this is his fourth in Mike Shirley's case, you see consistencies in the picks, and it all has to do with character. So I think that's a point well taken, Herb.
Well, you referenced 2025, and people in the chat are now bringing up, what does the future look like? Because they take Montgomery, who's a middle infielder. They take Gonzalez, who's a middle infielder. Which one is more projectable for the shortstop role in 2025 right now?
I would put my money on Colson Montgomery, but that's only because I haven't seen Jacob Gonzalez participate in any professional play. He is an advanced shortstop at this stage of his career, although Montgomery has the pedigree where he's already projected to play in Double-A soon, because he has no issue with Single-A advanced A pitching at this point, missed the majority of the season so far because of a back injury. But there is no indication that suggests Colson Montgomery needs to move away from shortstop, and I think there's more upside in his game at this point. So he's a top 30 prospect in the league, and he's still going to be the number one prospect in the White Sox system. We were talking about this on the Future Sox podcast. We were projecting where Jacob Gonzalez may rank in the system at this point. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking Montgomery 1, Noah Schultz is shooting up there. I would say he's number 2 at this point. Brian Ramos is still there, so maybe Jacob Gonzalez is 4 or 5 at this stage.
Is that typical for the first-round pick to be top 5?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I would say so. Maybe like you're looking for. I would say top 5. That makes a lot of sense, especially at 15. It's about right. And
then the other thing that I want to go to before we hit a break is the pitching. You mentioned 2025, and we see just even after this year, Lucas Giolito, Lance Lynn in trade rumors. We're not really sure what the pitching might look like for 2024. We see in the second round they go Grant Taylor. From the pitching side of this team and team building, what is Shirley kind of preached? Because we hear Noah Schultz, you mentioned him as the top 2 prospect. Now we see Grant Taylor. We even see last year Peyton Paulette in the second round. And it seems like Jonathan Cannon, who was 5th round last year, 3rd round, is getting a ton of buzz. So what has the pitching philosophy been of Mike Shirley, and how does that show in Grant Taylor?
So I love this question. I love talking pitching, and I love evaluating the philosophy behind selecting these pitchers, because Mike Shirley has a type. We've learned that he he loves to specialize in the Midwest just himself, but he has scouts all over the place across the country. And what we're seeing in these selections are high upside in specific pitches. So you're looking at frame, of course, but does the fastball jump out of the hand? What's the spin rate there? Then also, what's your second pitch? What's the best pitch outside of your fastball? And so many of these arms have an elite second pitch. With some development to go, there is risk. Like if we're looking at guys like Jared Kelly or Tanner McDougal, who another guy who was selected had Tommy John surgery. The White Sox are not afraid of that injury. Mike Shirley actually referenced the fact that these hard throwers nowadays, the majority of them are somewhat ticketed for Tommy John surgery. So you can't allow that to stray you away from your philosophy. And I think when it comes to like the modern setting of pitching in the White Sox organization right now, you're looking for guys, especially at the starting level, with a number of innings under the belt that suggest that they could do it on a regular basis. Grant Taylor was, if we set our focus specifically on him at this point, was set to go toe-to-toe with Paul Skeens at the top of the rotation for LSU before blowing out his elbow in February. He was probably the highlight of the Cape Cod League when the White Sox went and scouted him in the fall, in the summer last year in 2022. So you're talking about elite pitching. You're not afraid of Tommy John, so he's out for the rest of the year. He'll participate next season. The consistency is strike throwers, high upside with their secondary pitches, and also if you're looking at taking risk, Mike Shirley's not afraid of doing that. So that's really exciting.
That's a huge risk. Like a guy didn't pitch, and when he did, didn't he have like a 5 ERA plus at LSU? So they're taking a risk on picking this guy. And was the Cape Cod League a wood bat league?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's why they projected those guys to be what he's going to be doing in the major leagues instead of the metal bats in LSU.
Are you wearing pants?
Huh?
Are you wearing pants?
I am wearing pants. Somebody asking?
Juan said, Herb, are you wearing pants?
I mean,
looks
wearing
like you're just in your boxers.
Shorts, but yes, I am wearing pants.
He's wearing pants, folks.
I mean, if you won't want me to, Juan, a super chat would get the job done.
Mercy. All right.
No,
Juan,
we're going to keep your pants on.
Hey, if Juan wants,
if Juan super chats,
if Juan wants it, Juan gets it.
I think if the chat pays for it, I feel like we have to be nice to the chat.
They're just shorts.
They're just shorts.
Actual shorts. Not the ones that we grew up with, Juan, where they're below your knees. The kids like their shorts. They like to show the gams off.
Yeah.
And the thighs.
When they were making shorts, I mean, they were down to your shin.
Oh, yeah. If we wore anything above our knee back in the day, pretty much called those underwear.
Mercy. And shout out to our guy, Anthony, who I see is cracking a Goose Island down in Florida. So cheers. I see Herb has already crushed his.
Yeah, I already killed it.
So mercy. We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll get more into Grant Taylor. I want to let you know about Shady Rays. The sun has finally came out after raining a ton today. Take on the sun with gear built to last. Our friends at Shady Rays have you covered with the warm weather ahead with premium polarized shades at an affordable price. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that offers a world-class product that's just as good as any expensive pair we've worn. They have durable frames and extremely clear optics for outdoor adventures. And that's not all. Shady Rays offers the most insane protection program in all of eyewear. Every pair of sunglasses is backed by lost and broken replacements. If you lose or break your pair, even on day one, they told us they will send you a brand new pair. No questions asked. You can wear your Shady Rays with confidence because they have your back long after your purchase. And if you don't love your Shady Rays, you can exchange them for a new pair or return them for free within 30 days. There's no risk when you shop. Their team always has your back. And exclusively for our listeners, Shady Rays is giving out their best deal of the season. Go to shadyrays.com and use code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. Try for yourself these shades rated 5 stars by over 250,000 people. Again, at shadyrays.com using code CHGO for 50% off 2+ pairs of polarized shades. And I was showing off my legs recently because our friends over at Bird Dogs sent us some lovely, fantastic shorts. Mm-hmm. I know you got yours in the mail today. You were going to wear them, but then you were worried about a grout fit.
Yeah, I have a gray shirt on. My shorts are a little darker gray, and I don't want people talking. Oh, Herb's out here not matching.
Yeah. So, I mean, still comfy, though. Oh, you'd look good in them. You just got to wear a black shirt.
They are my absolute favorite shorts I've ever worn. And I'm not just saying it.
Take your pants off. Juan gave us $5. Take your pants off.
That's not enough for Juan. $5? I should have specified. God damn it, Juan. I'm not taking
what
my
the people
This is
want.
the can that you opened
That's
up
what
here.
the people
This is
want.
you.
I'm going to go to jail. Jake's going to look at me. Our GM's going to be like, hey, you can't be
Steven,
showing.
can you go run
out
and
there
ask
hanging.
Jake, say, Juan just gave us $5. Can Herb take his pants off?
He's going
I
to say
could do
no.
it, but I got a really strong idea.
Just go ask him. I gotta do a read. Go ask him about.
This will be a funny
Herb taking his pants
conversation.
off.
All right.
Yes.
Folks, I want to let you know, Herb's gonna look great. In his birthday suit because Herb's Herb.
I didn't say all that.
But if you're a little worried about your fashion game, why not up it? Because Bird Dogs make you look good. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts are designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and leg, giving you a truly sculpted look.
He's going over there.
Yeah, he better. Bird Dog shorts do the exact same thing as Lululemon, but they fit way better, and they fit way better because they're way better than regular shorts because that are made of stiff, restricting cotton, like the ones I'm wearing right now, that have a zipper and button. Bird Dogs fixed this by inventing cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki but stretches so you get a way slimmer fit without sacrificing movement, and they use an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long and keeps you from stinking, folks. So that's great. Go to
Yeah, and they have a lot of pockets. I know you were just talking
Yes.
about it, like they were hidden pockets too.
Front pocket, 2 zipper pockets.
Yeah, you can put your
butt
phone in there.
pocket.
Yeah,
Awesome.
I put my wallet in my side right pocket because you hate sitting on your wallet and it gives you back problems. Perfect placement.
Go to birddogs.com/CHGO or
Hugs you
enter
too.
promo code CHGO for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. Again, birddogs.com/CHGO or enter promo code CHGO for a free Yeti-style tumbler with your order. That's birddogs.com/CHGO or promo code CHGO for a free Yeti-style tumbler.
And if I was wearing those shorts, Juan wouldn't be wondering if I'm just wearing my boxers because they're a little bit longer and they have those under shorts.
Right, they have-
for the older people. They kind of feel like biker shorts. If you remember biker shorts,
It's kind of like they're sewn in sliding shorts,
and they feel so tight, like
like
they're nice and
sewn
tight,
in boxer briefs,
and they
they're
keep
nice.
you in
Yeah.
and tone you up, while the outside
Jesus.
Oh, look at Juan.
doesn't feel bad.
You won't want to take your bird dogs off. We
my
promise
God,
you.
Juan, too
However,
many.
Juan promises you that Herb will take his pants off because he just gave.
I'm just gonna give Juan his $10
$5
back.
super chats. Mercy,
Because we can't do it.
at least
There was a contentious negotiation over there. The FCC got involved. Jake and I were pleading your case. It got nixed. You
Okay,
guys keep your
FCC,
pants on in the
man.
show.
All right,
yeah.
let
the
me-
FCC
It won't
didn't
let me
get
be.
brought up.
I-
What did Jake say?
He
You did
raised
not
an
ask
eyebrow.
him.
I did ask him.
Yeah, he went over.
The
He literally
FCC
went over there
was
and asked.
not
I will pull him over here.
involved. The FCC has nothing to do with this little
Nah,
It was a
give-
quick phone call.
Juan his money
if
back.
we were I know that there's a video going around on Twitter about this man instructing people about hair removal on a certain place, and
Yes.
people very horrified that body place is being shown on YouTube.
Yes.
But it's instructional. It's educational.
Absolutely.
We are being,
Purely education.
I guess, educational about what Herb's lower half looks like. I think we can get away with
It would just be underwear. You guys don't want to see those.
Juan clearly does.
I'm gonna give you your money back, Juan. Just after the chat, we'll talk.
Juan,
We'll chat.
We're gonna move on, but thank you for your super chats. Feel free to play him a goose and a honk. I will continue to try to get Herb to take his pants off.
I mean, it's a high school all over again.
Hey, what?
Huh?
Mercy.
Streets was calling back in the day.
Mike, you mentioned that
Yeah, John.
that Grant Taylor was competing with Paul Skeens for that rotation, but you talked about an innings base.
Mm-hmm.
Are they confident that he's built up enough of an innings base? Because just doing stat line scouting, and you mentioning Tommy John's surgery as the reason to hold him back. Only 52 innings pitched in 2022, and obviously he made starts in the Cape Cod League, but only 21 innings. I mean, I'm a little bit concerned because these seem like Garrett Crochet numbers when
Right.
he was taken out of Tennessee. So, I mean, maybe what makes Grant Taylor a little bit different? What makes the Sox a little bit more confident that he has that starter length?
Well, I think they're confident that he'll return from Tommy John surgery healthy. That's the first step. And also number two is he was projected to be a starter, similar to Garrett Crochet at Tennessee prior to the seasonal shutdown in 2020. I think with Grant Taylor, he's got a pitch mix, a starter's repertoire already. And then if you look at his build, he's built to be a starter. So I think the White Sox are confident enough to start him and allow him to work through those issues. I would say next season, if he's able to build up about 80 innings, I mean, that's the number. Similar to Peyton Paulette this year. If you're looking at what Peyton Paulette's doing, he's about 45 innings so far, but he's making every start, and that's step one. And like I said earlier, I think for Grant Taylor, the expectation is let's stay healthy for 2024. Let's get that innings load down, right, or up, I should say. And then in 2025, if you're steady across that season, then maybe Grant Taylor cracks the rotation in 26.
Yeah, I mean, we have the concerns about, or at least I have the concerns about the Sox building up these prospects, and maybe Peyton Paulette and is more of the blueprint rather than the guys that we've seen already, like Crochet. And you look at Crochet, 63 innings at Tennessee, 65 innings at Tennessee. The 2020 season where he only had 3 innings, and he hasn't really pitched over 55 innings in a season with the White Sox. So we really haven't seen that innings base be reached with the Sox due to Tommy John surgery for him, and obviously pitching out of the bullpen. But we never really saw that commitment to him being a starter. I mean, are him and Michael Kopech in similar spots? Could they ever abandon ship on Garrett Crochet, the reliever, and then try to start building up his innings base? I mean, how did the Sox kind of fix these future or these past projects still that are in-house, like Crochet and Kopech, because they got to fill out that rotation somehow in 2024, and maybe those guys would be weeded out by 2025, and we see some of these other prospects rise up.
And we're going to learn a lot prior to the deadline, August 1st, of course. But in Garrett Crochet's case, I think it's very important to mention that Mike Shirley drafted him as a starting pitcher. He was used immediately in 20 because they needed him to potentially win a World Series. And the fact that he didn't pitch at all at Tennessee that year because of the seasonal shutdown, right, I think is an anomaly. And when it comes to Kopech, so anyway, backing up to Crochet before I get on to Kopech, I've been rooting for the White Sox to commit to Crochet to becoming a starter, at least try. Allow him to throw multiple innings as a starter in Double-A. You don't really – I'm not a fan of sending him to Triple-A because the ball flies out of the ballpark in Charlotte. It is what it is. But if you're – whatever the case may be, develop him now as a starting pitcher. You may have missed your opportunity last offseason going into this year, but I still think the upside is there. I still think he's capable of doing it. He can get away with 3 pitches. Fastball, slider, changeup as a starting pitcher. I firmly believe that. Michael Kopech's a little bit of a different case. Missing 2 consecutive years, one based on injury and one personal decision. Building up the innings load at the big league level when you're trying to compete, and then you're asking him to do something he hasn't done, just coming out of the bullpen in the year that they were in 21, I do believe it was. It changes. People are human, right? These pitchers are human. It changes the way your development trajectory goes, and I think it's all a matter of allowing Kopech to throw and get the innings at the big league level under stress. And I think last year was a good step forward. This year, albeit like overall has been a disappointment for Kopech, I think ultimately it will be a good thing because there really is not many other options. If you're trying to compete, this is a guy who has proven to make starts at the big league level consistently. Now, the results haven't been very good based on the pitch mix and the success that he's had in his repertoire, but it's just a matter of the timelines, man. It's been brutal. It's very unfortunate what we saw out of the 2020 season. It changed so much, and honestly, it had a lot to do with why there was so much talent in the first round this year. Because you see guys who either opted to go to college or opted to re-enlist and take on that extra year that they had been given because of the COVID shutdown in 20. Kids were returning to school. They had foregone their chance to enter the draft that year because there's only 5 rounds. So it really did kind of change the trajectory of a lot of the players in this era. But anyway, those 2 players, I'm more focused on Crochet because I think the upside's still there. With Kopech, it's just a matter of getting strong enough and making sure that you're not so fastball reliant. Because, we see the outcomes when he loses his groove. He really only feels comfortable throwing a fastball when he's out of it.
Before we go on to more draft people, I asked this to Vinny the other day, and I don't know if you got the answer for this one, Mike. Mike Shirley does the draft. That's part of his job. And I know Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn are overall his bosses. So when it comes to the actual draft, is Mike Shirley, does he have autonomy just to make the picks himself? Or is it like, this is the pick we want to go with, he has to run it by Kenny and Rick, and does he say that he has some pushback from time to time? Because every time I see them talk about the draft, they put Mike Shirley out there in front. Like before the draft, they put him out in front. After the draft, they put him out in front. And rarely do we get to hear from Rick Hahn or Kenny Williams about the draft, specifically after the draft.
So I don't want to speak in absolutes because I'm not in the room and I'm not exactly sure, but this is my read on the situation. It reminds me of how Chris Gatz operates and oversees the minor leagues.
Okay.
He's the assistant general manager now, but he was the director of the minor leagues. He was a minor league coordinator for the White Sox prior to his promotion. Chris Getz was the speaking authority on everything, and you would go to Getz. Getz would have all the information about Matt Zaleski, Everett Tieford, who did move on, Andy Barquette, who's the hitting coordinator. Those are the higher authority minor league operations, and then they report to Getz. Getz oversees the operation. He responds to the upper management. With Mike Shirley, I think it's the same thing. I think Mike Shirley has foremost authority over where he's deploying scouts, I should say. And also, I think we should give credit to Kenny Williams because I know he's involved with the scouting process, and he has I don't want to speculate. I do think the Jacob Gonzalez pick was genuine in the fact that the White Sox loved him, but also it is kind of beneficial to them that he is as advanced as he is in this point of his career. Some people like to say that it was a Kenny Williams pick, but I don't necessarily believe that.
Well, we see that he loved Colson Montgomery, and he was in their backyard in Indiana, and he takes him in the first round, right? And now we see post-draft that the opinion on Montgomery changed, that people probably didn't see him enough, and that the prospect seems like the White Sox got a steal at 22. Schultz seems to be projecting similarly as well, a high school prospect that not a lot of people thought would be a first-round pick that was going to sign, right, because he was going to go to Vanderbilt.
Well, yeah, right.
And then we see in the 7th round, George Wolko, again, in the backyard from Downers Grove, and now we're seeing that, even though the White Sox said that Grant Taylor could be a first-round talent, we see that Baseball America has Wolkow ranked higher than Grant Taylor. So, is the true prize of this draft class Wolkow? And when you look back on it, Jacob Gonzalez, great. Maybe he helps out the team, in 2 years, but our guy that we wanted is in the 7th round.
It very well could be. And I talked about a little bit earlier with the allocation of resources, we'll learn more about the strategy once everything is on paper and the amount of money invested in every pick. But the Wolkow pick is going to be overslot, and that's a guy who's 17 years old, turning 18 in January, graduated early, and wanted to go into professional baseball. And you talk about the exclusivity of scouting players like Wolkow, Colson Montgomery, more information on Noah Schultz than anybody else across Major League Baseball, and they were willing to select that player because they trusted the process. And to give credit to the scouting department and Mike Shirley mentioned several scouts being on a lot of these players for years prior to them committing to colleges, and the fact that they were available, it just suggests that the White Sox are confident in their evaluations of guys who they've been monitoring. And so, look, when you have access to guys more so than other teams, then you're going to know more and you're going to feel much better about those players. Wolkow, though, specifically, if you just look at a video of him taking batting practice, you buy in. And when you talk about taking upside swings in the draft, this is a left-handed hitter, and I got his information right here, 6'7", 240. So, again, turning 18, that means multiple young years in your system where you have full control of developing the player. Now, the swing and miss rate could be a concern. There's all these things that are concerning, but you're dreaming on a player like this. And this is how I think Mike Shirley is different than what had been, going on in the past prior to when he took over in 2020, is he's going with upside swings, and he's willing to invest overslot in these players, similar to what he did in Jared Kelly in 20 and several other times in the past as well. So I think a change in philosophy was absolutely due. And Mike Shirley, I think, in my opinion, has done a great job. And this is a big pick, a very exciting pick.
No, I'm not 6'7" or 240 anymore. But when I was a kid and I went from All-Star Baseball when I was in, before high school, I was underage like Wolkow was. And then jumped to high school, and immediately that difference between, people my age to people a year older, just 1 year older, was so dramatic, and I could not handle it. I cannot imagine how good this player had to be. So being that young, being 17 and not turning to 18 until January, that's amazing. Like to have him actually competing, and not even competing, doing it at a high level too.
Having a full 12 inches over you is going to help.
It's going to help out. But also that all those levers you got to move to make that ball go as far as you need to go. It's going to be tough to, to compete right there. And I hope in those early years they have patience, because he's not only going from high school to the professionals, but those guys, professionals, are already 21, 22, 25 years old, and he's going to be 17 maybe when he starts this year.
Yeah, so often you look at these prospects and they're the best in their respective area. And then all of a sudden you're around the same type of talent or better, and it's a challenge. It's a shock to the system for a lot of these players. I will say in Wolkow's case, I believe it was South Carolina that he was committed to, and he was upset that he didn't get drafted in the second round, and then he was waiting in the second day, I should say. For first and second rounds were on day 1. Day 2 was 3 through 10, and then 11 through 20 was day 3, and he was looking. He was picked in the 7th round. He was looking like he wasn't going to get drafted, and he was getting frustrated. And Wolkow was talking about it. He spoke to a local reporter and said, I was going to make a decision to go to college, and I was ready to make that decision, but then the White Sox made my dream come true. And that just tells you the type of psyche. He's ready to be a professional. That's all he cares about. And that tells me that the White Sox are going to scratch a deal for him.
And you said he's going over slot, so he's going to be paid like a first or second round pick instead of going to South Carolina. They have to do that?
It very much seems like that'll be the case. You're allowed to spend a certain amount in your pool that doesn't go against the rest of your pool. So one pick is a certain amount, and then if you go over, obviously that impacts the rest of your draft, and that's why I'm sort of referencing the rest of the picks, because some guys, not saying that they're throwaway picks, but they're efficient signings where you're able to go big in the 7th round, and that's part of the reason why Wolkow was available.
Well, and George told Merck of MLB.com, I wanted to start my career a year early. He mentioned something about he wants to be a Hall of Famer.
That radiates confidence.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
A very
and just
entry-level goals.
And real quick on that point, more and more we're seeing players who do speak to the media radiate confidence. Now, for example, James Fox of Future Sox interviewed Jacob Burke. Jacob Burke has all the confidence in the world, and he's mashing in Winston-Salem already. And he honestly should have been promoted to Winston-Salem earlier than he did. Dominated Kannapolis, clearly better than the competition there. But there's consistencies that are starting to be formed, so that's really encouraging. The mental part of the game is somewhat underrated, and I think the White Sox are attacking that.
Absolutely. Exciting to see. I mean, it definitely seems like there's a difference with Mike Shirley directing this. We'll take a break, and then we'll do a little bit of a recap on some final guys, a little news and notes, and then we'll get into King E's comment about Luis Robert Jr. and the Derby and how he did well, and then apparently got slowed down a little bit. But we got a ComEd read, and then we'll let you know about our friends over at Goose Island. But Herb, have you ever heard of the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program? Because I feel like something that you and I don't talk about enough.
I mean, we talk about this off the air.
All the time.
All the time. Because
chopping it up, having a couple beers.
Yeah, I'm just like, hey, man, what about the White Sox? And you're like, man, how about the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program? Because they're committed to helping families and businesses in the communities that they serve, Sean.
You're always saying that.
You already know that.
I do.
Helping you manage energy usage and lower energy bills now and into the future. See, you haven't finished it.
ComEd's customer service, I tell you, grade A. I had a really good experience with that.
Mercy. And they offer a wide variety of incentives on lighting and other efficiency upgrades to commercial, industrial, and public sector customers of all sizes across the territory. ComEd also offers free facility assessments that can help find energy-saving opportunities like for HVAC systems, commercial kitchen equipment, or industrial processes.
I already know how it works, but Sean, tell the people how it works.
Mike, can you ask me how it works?
Hey, Sean. One time my power went out, and I spoke to their customer service department, and I said, hey, can you give me some information on this? And they were like, sure, no problem. And it was really great. So outside of the customer service, what else can they do?
Yeah, that's not how it works. So an authorized for the energy efficiency program, an authorized engineer will work with you to develop a detailed assessment plan. They're probably going to be really nice about it, specific to your goals and needs. And these can be done in person or virtually and last approximately 2 hours. And within 3 to 4 weeks, Customers will receive a report detailing energy efficiency projects they could start working on immediately. Each recommendation will include estimated energy savings, cost savings, project costs, potential incentives, and simple payback. If you own a business, do not wait. Get started saving money and energy today. For energy-saving tips, lighting incentives, or to schedule your free facility assessment, go to ComEd.com/poweringbiz.
Is that ComEd.com/poweringbiz?
Yes, it is. Schedule today.
Oh, man.
Herb, what'd you just crush?
312 from our folks at Goose Island.
That's a wheat ale. That's their flagship beer. It is absolutely fantastic. Herb just had one to chat White Sox draft. Maybe you're having a normal Wednesday. There's no sports on. What are you going to do? Drink some beer. CHGO, supported by Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's beer since 1988. Their beer roster includes the 312 Wheat Ale, the Goose IPA, which I'm now seeing commercials for. I'm also seeing commercials for the Tropical Beer Hug, and they have a nice sampler. You could try the Tropical Beer Hug. That's at a 9.8 alcohol percentage. That's dangerously easy to drink. They also have the Neon Beer Hugs. They have the Hazy IPAs. They have the Juicy IPAs. A lot of stuff to try over from our friends at Goose Island. And we also have an event coming up, a White Sox and Cubs specific event. You guys have one on August 26th. We have one on July 26th. It is Sox Cubs CHGO Crosstown Series. The first one's going to be July 26th at 7:10. Cubs Sox at Guaranteed Rate Field. The ticket includes a shirt, and the shirt that Herb is wearing, you can either get the north side or the south side version of that. You also get a pregame meetup with us at Oak Forest at the Gaelic Park
Nice.
bar.
Very nice establishment.
Mike knows the area. And then you'll get transportation from the bar to the stadium and then back. And you also get a ticket to the game and hang out with us. So it should be a fantastic time, and that's sponsored by Goose Island. So grab an ultra-fresh brewery-exclusive beer at Goose Island's original brew house on Clybourne Avenue in Lincoln Park, or from their tap room on Fulton Street in Westtown. Goose Island Beer Company, Chicago's, you guessed it, beer.
Yep.
Did you know that in 1910, for the Lancaster Lynx, there was a man who pitched 19 games, and actually I'm saying man, I don't even know if this is a person, it could be a can, it could be a woman, that pitched 19 games for the Lancaster Lynx of the Ohio League, and their name was Beer.
Yeah.
No last name.
Okay.
Just beer.
Beer. Is there a birth date? Nope. Lefty or righty? Nope. Just name Beer. Through 19 games, 7 hits, 123 batting average. Know all that shit, but
Speaking of
name is
obscure
beer.
facts, I'll tell you this. The National League won the All-Star Game last night, and it was the first time since 2012. You know who the Cubs' lone All-Star was? Steven, you know?
I know it.
Brian LaHare?
It was Brian LaHare.
Mercy.
I love Brian LaHare. You know what happened to Brian LaHare?
What happened to Brian LaHare? He went to Japan?
He was an All-Star in 2012. Then they called up Anthony Rizzo in the second half, and LaHare never played again.
It happens. In the major leagues?
No, in the major leagues, yeah, he went to
like that.
Japan. So.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
It ends just like that. Now I got to look up who the 2012 All-Stars for the Sox were.
Oh man, Matt Thornton.
You want to have some guesses? Is Matt Thornton? Herb, you want to guess? 2012 Sox
Was
All-Stars?
that the Jesse Crane year?
Oh, maybe.
Okay, there's 3. Oh, there's 4. There's 4 of them in 2012.
2012.
Yeah,
I remember
there's
the
no
Sox were
Jesse
kind of good.
Crane. Jesse
Sox
Crane-
were decently
Did
good
I,
that
did I
year.
get Thornton?
Jesse Crane was 2013.
Oh, okay.
Matt Thornton, 2010.
No.
Okay.
No.
So 2012 White Sox, I'm going to go with, fudge, it's not.
Adam Dunn.
4. Adam Dunn is one of them.
Oh, wow. Paul Konerko.
Paul Konerko is another. There's 2 more.
Well, it was
Yes.
his last year, but I don't think he was that good. Was it Marcus J. Burley?
No.
Mark Allen Burley.
One of these guys had a online campaign where Gordon Beckham impersonated him.
Then that would be,
Oh
would
man.
it be Punch AJ?
No, would not be Punch AJ.
Jake Peavy.
Yes, Jake Peavy.
And what do we got for the fourth one?
Dirtbags. We just don't quit.
Huh?
Who do we have for the number 4?
I feel like you guys got to keep guessing this one. This one's none of these are like hard.
All right, so 2012.
So Mardzija.
No, not
He was
the
a Cubby,
Marges.
wasn't he?
Marges.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get it.
Is it a pitcher or a hitter?
It's a pitcher. It's
Okay.
guys. You guys are thinking way too hard.
Oh, I got it. Is it Chris Sale?
It's Chris Sale.
All right,
Look
nice.
at that. Chris
Do it.
Sale. This is his first All-Star appearance as a White Sack. So fun little
Hey.
trivia there.
They were kind of good that year until September.
Yeah. I don't remember that team. I don't remember any of their teams.
was
None of their
Rob
teams
Ventura-
are rememberable.
It was let's see, 2012 was Ozzie Guillen's last year.
Remember
wasn't it?
when the White Sox
Or
needed
Robin
to
Ventura's first
convince Robin Ventura to be manager? He didn't want to be
No,
manager.
that was Robin Ventura's first year.
He was like,
Ozzie
nah.
had left in 2011, I believe.
And he did not want to be, and he didn't want to be there. It was
No.
his first year,
So
and like
funny.
Mike's saying, he
Yeah.
did not want to be there.
Kenny had to convince him.
85 at 77 in his first year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all downhill after that. And people remember now Robin Ventura as the bad manager instead of the great baseball player he was.
Yeah.
It's a travesty.
I don't know about that.
Oh, my God. Bring up Robin Ventura's name. People are like, oh, he sucked as a manager.
It's not his fault.
Don't remember Rockin' Robin hitting all the Grand Slams, like 5th all time in Grand Slams. Jerks.
Hey, whenever I mention him, I mention him as your favorite player,
Grand
not your
Slam
favorite
single
White Sox manager.
As a New York Met.
All-Star festivities were kind of quiet for the White Sox because Luis Robert Jr. was in the Home Run Derby, and he was supposed to be in the All-Star game. But during the Home Run Derby, tweaked something. And the White Sox said that he was going to get an MRI, but Luis Robert did tell the beat reporters that were out in Seattle that he felt fine and he seems like he's going to play on Friday. And I'm sorry, Kingy. He said I really made him believe that Robert was going to win the Derby. You look, and if he beats a Rosarena, he might. If Luis Sierra throws him decent pitches, he might.
I'll tell you this, Sean.
You-
I was tired watching that. Like seeing how quickly they would go from one pitch to the next. It seemed like Luis Robert was like kind of gassed a little bit.
Well, and then too, like the first round, they were describing Eduardo Perez was describing a Rosarena in the first minute as his back leg shaking.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there's no way this guy wins it. How the hell does that happen? So like, I really did think Robert had a great chance. He hit 29 missiles in the first round, and I was like, oh, Rutschman put up 28, and then Robert almost beat him in regulation time, and then only hitting 21 in the second one. That was disappointing, but it was a good showing, I think, overall for Luis Robert. Disappointing that he wasn't able to play in the All-Star game, but also, I mean, that guy's played a lot of baseball this year, and what's more important is him being on the field. I don't know if you guys take anything away specifically from the Home Run Derby, him being injured, but we did do a little play with the title, what's the future direction of the Sox? A lot of that is, Future Sox. But Luis Robert is driving that. You mentioned 2025. He signed until 2027. Obviously this is a player you can build around, but it's not really what baseball's about. It's not like you have a LeBron James. You're going to be going to the title 7 times or the finals 7 times or whatever. Like, we've seen this with Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. They're on the same team, still can't make the playoffs. What is the future direction of the Sox? Is it clear right now, or is this trade deadline going to happen and we're going to have to see where the dust settles?
See, the thing is, if they would have had like actual good trade deadlines in the recent past, I would say, okay, yeah, the White Sox are going to do some retooling, not totally rebuilding, because rebuilding's going to be tough, and I don't know if we already spoke to it, but we spoke on the off camera about, the rules and the Nationals and the White Sox not be able to be a top 6 team anymore because of the new CBA, but retooling would be in my purview. So you could trade Lucas Giolito away, you could trade Lance Lynn away, and et cetera players, and then still compete next year for not only AL Central, but maybe the AL crown. It's really far-fetched for a team that's 16 games back. But, like, re-signing Lucas Giolito, I think is, priority number 1. Because he's been here. He won't break the bank. You need a starting pitcher. And he knows the culture here. So I think it could happen that quickly. And Robert has to be here to have this go quickly and to turn this around fast, because he is a superstar. Mm-hmm. Now, I know people on this podcast think that I want to trade Robert. No, but I would just say there's no untouchables on the White Sox, because you're 16 games back, as Sean just said, with him on the team, playing most of the games, being the superstar that he is, the team is still really hella bad. So you could trade anybody, but it would take a huge deal for me to trade Luis Robert. It'd have to be a lot of players that are ready to play next year who are really fucking good, and that doesn't happen with a team that is competing right now. So, yeah, the White Sox could turn this around really quickly, but they need to do some real trading in this trade deadline so they can get players who are ready to compete next year. As a seller, I think they will be in the driver's seat right here from here until August 1st. So Rick Hahn and Katie Williams, Jeremy Haber, etc. need to get to work, and I'm sure they are already there, and get some players in this building for the players they have now. And then also, there doesn't preclude them from re-signing Lance Lynn in the offseason. Doesn't preclude them from re-signing Lucas Giolito, etc. players if they want to trade them, if they have a good enough relationship with them.
I know you're saying 5/170. I don't think the White Sox are using any money to re-sign any player over Andrew Benintendi's contract.
Really? You don't think so?
You think so?
They have to.
Do you think they're going to sign somebody to a $100 million contract? I don't think so.
Oh man,
they were that close to doing Zach Wheeler.
Look, I know
it's true.
It's fair to buy into the pessimism. I understand that completely, but
they're $15 million away from signing Manny Machado.
To Herb's point
per year
about Luis Robert being a superstar, it's hard to overcome pitching deficiencies. If you don't have pitching, you set yourself back years. And the White Sox need to make a decision, because if they allow Lucas Giolito to get to free agency, they are going to lose that bid. So if you can scratch a deal before the deadline or in season while he's still with the White Sox, if they do decide to keep him throughout the year, then I think that's your best chance, because otherwise, man, that price is going to go way up. And also, to your point, Herb, real quick, about the draft, if the White Sox are projected to be as bad as we assume they will be for the rest of the year, say they get a top 10 pick in 2024's draft, they can't have another top 10 pick in 2025 based on the rules, because a top market, a big market club like the Nationals are terrible again this year. They're not eligible to be in the draft lottery again. So if you're a White Sox fan, you understand that they'll most likely be in the draft lottery next year, and then go for it in any other way. Just compete. Try to compete with either savvy free agent signings. It might have to be one-year deals, but if you really do buy into your internal options, let's get this train moving. It's not so much a rebuild. It's a quick pivot to a new style of building a competitive franchise within the organization, something we haven't seen really ever in my lifetime.
Is it viable, though? Because, I really don't... again, I'm so pessimistic on them spending on pitching, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get the starters.
Yeah, it's fair.
Don't they have to spend on pitching?
They might.
They might have to, but, we look at the rotation. Who is an actual, true, homegrown player? None of those players were drafted by the White Sox.
Exactly.
Who have the White Sox drafted as a starter?
And that's what developed? I'm really buying into now, is the internal development of these draft picks, because you don't have any other choice.
Yeah.
The rebuild that was started in 2016 began by acquiring players, prospects from other organizations. You fast forward now, the White Sox are drafting players that they had scouted, learned about, understand the psyche. Maybe that's the difference here, because clearly the choice to do what they did hasn't panned out, and maybe their own players that they scouted themselves can come up and provide a little bit better of an outcome.
And there's no one available from minor leagues that's going to be in the starting rotation for next year, or at least projected into the starting rotation. Because in my assessment,
Davis Martin.
Stop it. In my assessment, it is he's hurt the whole year too.
Yeah.
Not the whole year.
He's been hurt.
Yeah,
he's got Tommy John. I know he'll probably come back next year, like in September, August, to be pitching the major leagues after a minor league stint.
He'll be here.
Oh, God. But they have to fix 60%, because I don't think – there's no way you come back with Mike Clevenger next year. He's oft hurt, and he's just mediocre. So they got 3 guys they got to replace, so they got to spend some type of money.
Internal options.
And they have no one available,
spend
right?
Mike Clevenger money. We see Mike Mayer as a trade for cash considerations, like
Touki Toussaint.
He's a former first rounder.
That's where we're at, Herb.
They love former first rounders.
That's where we're at. Organizational cast-offs who are now part of your big league
100% going to be in the starting rotation next year.
He's an American League Central cast-off. The Guardians, who are in second place, didn't want Touki Toussaint.
Internally, a realistic option maybe is Jonathan Cannon, who's a part of the Futures game this season. That's expecting a lot, though. You know what I mean? These guys are still probably one more season away from legitimately becoming big leaguers.
But they're not afraid to be aggressive, though. That's the one thing, is I feel like if Jacob Gonzalez is hitting at a major league level, they'll put, we saw with Andrew Vaughn, they're just going to put him at whatever position's available. Do you think they have that same knee-jerk reaction to pitchers? If Cannon does continue to rise up, and let's say, what do you think the highest level he could reach this year is?
Well, he'll pitch in Double-A.
Yeah.
Wow.
He dominates in Double-A. like just say stupid numbers, 250 sub ERA is just striking out the bunch, just showing control. Could he be, and does well in spring training, could he be in the rotation? Like, would they be afraid to be aggressive with a pitcher like that?
Well, Jonathan Cannon's an interesting case because all he does is throw strikes. Now, he's not going to get a lot of guys out with the swing and miss, but he fills up the strike zone, and I think he feels very confident in. He's sort of like a Lance Lynn type in the way that he delivers a fastball cutter and hard slider. In a lot of cases, changeup's okay, but that's a guy who throws strikes, so he's a little bit more advanced because he can control the outcomes, not get things out of hand by walking guys. The White Sox were aggressive with Sean Burke. The White Sox were aggressive with Matt Thompson, and they still believe in those guys. Sean Burke's MIA. Matt Thompson's been inconsistent in Double-A. You're going to have to add guys to the 40-man. Matt Thompson is already there, so Chase Oleski, does that tickle your fancy?
No.
I mean, that's, you know what I mean? So
that is.
you're going to have to make savvy signings in the offseason, in my opinion. Allow these guys, your top prospects, to develop, and you're dreaming in 2025.
You got anything else?
I don't. That's just disappointing.
Well, the final thing, I guess, is it seems like Schultz has done well. It seems
he's awesome. Yeah.
It seems like Paulette's been
Good.
Okay. And you've talked about Cannon here. Mena, Thompson, Burke, like are all the other lower starting pitchers kind of struggling? Like even Norge Vera seems like we're not hearing a ton about. Seems like we're not hearing a ton about the guy that they did overslot in the second round.
What about Jared Kelly? Yeah,
right. Like it does seem like some of these other guys really aren't having the same steam as you'd think they would build year after year after year.
So Jared Kelly is in a piggyback role now. He's no longer starting games, but he is going multiple innings beginning in the second or third. So he's going like 5 1/3 innings, but not as a starter.
All right.
So he's still and he's doing really well there. Christian Mena struggled in Double-A, but he's 20 years old. You got to give him time. There's so much failure going on outside of But again, like when it comes to the top 30 right now, single A and very few Double-A prospects. That's where the White Sox organization is right now. Norge Vera, 7-day IL. Haven't heard from him in a long time. Barely any innings pitched. I'm like this close giving up hope on Norge Vera. So that's not very good.
God, what happened? Because people were like anticipating
I was
maybe
so
this
excited.
year or next year.
Jose Contreras put his hands on him. I thought
That's
he
what
was
I'm
just
saying.
gonna start throwing these crazy splitters. And
He
just,
looks so good in showcases and then in sparingly when he's out there, but over an elongated stretch, when you ask him to throw more than 2 innings and then get up again after 5 days, he just hasn't been able to respond. And at the end of last year, the velocity went way down, and we barely saw him this year. So anyway.
Thanks. All right. Well, Mike, we appreciate all of your expertise
Hey, thanks, guys.
on the White Sox organization and letting us know about the future direction of the Sox. Make sure you follow Mike on Twitter at Rankin906. Make sure you follow Future Sox everywhere at Future Sox and read their work. Can you be redirected at futuresox.com?
Yeah, soxmachine.com,
Soxmachine.com.
futuresox.com, you'll find us.
And go to soxmachine.com and then find the Future Sox stuff there. Because Mike did give me a real confident answer if I get redirected from futuresox.com.
Well, because anyway.
I'm just it wasn't comment. Go to soxmachine.com.
Yeah, do that.
That's Herb Lawrence. You can follow him on Twitter at Actor23. He's our CHGO White Sox community leader. The 23 is for Robin Ventura, the player, not the manager. And I'm Sean Anderson. You can follow me on Twitter at Sean_W_Anderson. Thank you to everybody for watching and hanging out with us. And make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. And appreciate Stephen Nicholas for producing the show. We'll be with you tomorrow again at 5 p.m. talking about expectations for the second half. See you then. Bye.